She was always the one who showed up, the one who listened when everyone else walked away, the one who stayed up late helping others, even when her own world was crumbling. People called her strong, selfless, dependable. But what they didn't see was that every time she said yes to someone else, she was quietly saying no to herself. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. Skipping a meal to help a friend, canceling a weekend plan to support a family emergency, smiling when she wanted to cry. But over time, the weight of it all began to show, not on the outside, but deep inside, in her silence, in her exhaustion, in the way she slowly forgot what it felt like to simply breathe for herself. And then came the moment she couldn't ignore. A single question that echoed in her mind. When was the last time I chose me? It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was the beginning of everything. She was the one people always leaned on, and not just once in a while, always. If someone was sick, she showed up. If a friend needed help moving, she rearranged her weekend. If a coworker was drowning in work, she volunteered to stay late. Not because she had time, not because she wasn't tired, but because she didn't know how to say no without feeling guilty. Her phone never stopped buzzing. Messages that started with, "I hate to ask," and ended with, "But I know you'll understand." And she did. Every time. She'd drop everything, change her schedule, push her needs to the bottom of the list. She thought that made her kind, that it proved her love. But inside, she was starting to feel invisible, even to herself. At work, she wore her exhaustion like a hidden badge. She smiled through headaches, took deep breaths when she wanted to scream, said yes, of course, when every part of her body was begging her to rest. She didn't want to be seen as difficult, or selfish, or, God forbid, someone who couldn't be counted on. Sound familiar? And in her relationships, it wasn't much different. She remembered birthdays, supported goals that weren't hers, put effort into staying connected even when it was one-sided. She listened more than she spoke, gave more than she received. Slowly, she started measuring her worth by how useful she was to everyone else. But deep down, she was exhausted from constantly being the strong one. Her hobbies faded. Her sleep got worse. Her smile started feeling like a performance. She couldn't remember the last time she did something just for fun, something that didn't have a purpose or benefit someone else. Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, where did I go? Not the version others needed, but the one you used to be? Still, she kept going. She told herself that this was adulthood, that giving meant caring, that someday, somehow, someone would pour back into her the same way she'd always done for everyone else. But that day never came. And that's when the quiet voice inside her, the one she'd ignored for years, finally got loud enough to be heard. It didn't happen in a dramatic moment. There was no explosion, no loud breakdown, just small signs, subtle, quiet but persistent. She'd wake up feeling more tired than when she went to bed. Her chest always felt heavy, like she was carrying things no one else could see. Her mind raced even in silence. But when people asked how she was doing, she smiled and said, "I'm fine." Because what else could she say? The truth? She wasn't fine. She hadn't been for a long time. But she was so used to functioning through the fatigue, through the stress, through the quiet tears in the shower, that fine became the only answer she knew. The worst part wasn't that no one noticed. It was that she stopped noticing herself. When was the last time she actually asked, "What do I need today?" She'd sit in traffic and feel like crying for no reason. Hear a song and suddenly feel like a stranger in her own life. At dinner with people she loved, she'd smile and participate. But deep down, she felt completely alone. It wasn't about being ungrateful. She was surrounded, but disconnected. Present, but not really there. One night, it caught up to her. She was alone, folding laundry, when the weight of everything hit her all at once. Her hands stopped moving. Her eyes welled up. And for the first time, she said out loud, "I don't want to do this anymore." Not life. Just the version of it, where she always came last. It wasn't a breakdown. It was a breakthrough. Quiet, still, but undeniable. Because in that moment, she finally realized no one was coming to rescue her. And maybe, just maybe, she didn't need rescuing. Maybe she needed permission from herself to stop being everything for everyone and finally start being something for her. It started with something small, a simple no. Someone asked her to help with something she normally would have dropped everything for. And this time she paused. Her heart raced, her throat tightened, but she said it anyway. I can't. And then, silence. She waited for guilt to crash over her. But instead, what she felt was something else. Relief. The world didn't fall apart. No one disowned her. The people who cared adjusted. And the ones who didn't, they pulled away, and she let them. Because maybe, she realized, if your presence in someone's life depends on you abandoning yourself, then maybe they were never really with you to begin with. She started setting boundaries, shaky at first, but real. She said, I need rest, without explaining. She turned down invitations that didn't feel right, and for the first time in years, she chose a quiet night alone over pleasing someone else. Was it uncomfortable? Absolutely. Was it freeing? More than she could have imagined. The most surprising part? With each small act of self-respect, she began to feel something she hadn't in years, herself. Not the version shaped by others' expectations, but the version that had been buried underneath obligations, smiles, and silent exhaustion. Have you ever done something small and felt like you'd just taken your life back? And she didn't stop there. She started paying attention to her body, moving it not to burn calories, but to feel alive. Her anxiety started to lift. Her sleep got better. She wasn't chasing success anymore. She was building peace. And it was in that peace that a new vision started to form. She didn't heal overnight. There was no movie moment, no perfect montage. It was slow, gentle. A morning where she let herself sleep in without guilt. An afternoon walk where she left her phone at home. A playlist that reminded her of who she used to be, before she forgot what made her feel alive. She created space in her calendar, in her home, and inside herself. That meant fewer obligations, more boundaries, and room to breathe. She stopped saying yes out of fear and started saying no with love. Not to hurt anyone, but to protect what was left of her. Because now, she understood that rest is resistance too. She reconnected with forgotten passions, dancing barefoot to old songs, painting even if the colors clashed, taking long walks just to feel the air on her skin. Nothing productive, nothing to prove. Just life, felt fully. Slowly, she began to remember the version of herself that existed before burnout became her normal. As her mind cleared, new ideas started flowing. For years, she'd wanted to start something of her own, a business, a project, a way of helping others without losing herself. Now, with clarity and calm, she began writing it down, planning, dreaming, and for the first time, believing it could be real. And she did it, step by step. She launched her own coaching practice, helping women who, like her, had lost themselves in the noise of everyone else's needs. It didn't happen overnight, but it was honest, sustainable, freeing. She wasn't saving everyone. She was guiding them to save themselves by first choosing themselves. Her health improved, physically and mentally. She laughed more, ate better, spoke softer to herself. The weight on her chest was gone, replaced by breath. Her mornings were no longer battles. They were invitations. And her nights? Peaceful. Not perfect, but hers. She found joy in things that once felt impossible. Hosting small dinners with people who respected her time. Traveling to places she'd only dreamed about. Waking up with purpose, not panic. And best of all, looking in the mirror and not just seeing a woman who survived, but one who finally started living. She wasn't louder. She wasn't better. She was just her. Fully. Finally. And that was enough. Because for the first time in her life, she wasn't waiting to be chosen. She had chosen herself. And in doing so, she opened the door to a kind of happiness that no one else could give, and no one could take away. Her story isn't rare, it's quiet. It's the kind people live every day, showing up, giving, sacrificing, until something breaks. But what she discovered is what so many of us need to hear. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's the beginning of every other kind of healing. And if you're still stuck in that version of life where you always come last, maybe this is your moment too. The moment where everything doesn't fall apart, but starts to make sense. All because, like her, you finally chose you. And if that touched something in you, if you feel like this might be your story too, watch the video on the left of your screen. It's about another person who spent years being overlooked, until one quiet decision changed everything. Because sometimes the smallest decision, the one no one else sees, is the one that saves your life.